What's up, folks? Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. It is Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It is the wild and wacky episode of Main Street Sports Today. And because it's the wild and wacky episode, and because Mo is still out, we have gone into the grab bag, as it were, into our eclectic Rolodex to get a couple, not one, but two co-hosts today. And we're excited to welcome our good friend, Mr. Joe Sullivan, a colleague of ours at Main Street Media. He joins us for the first hour. Good afternoon, Joe.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Although, I don't know, filling those shoes of Mo's. They're big ones. But I'll do my best.
It's been tough all week long, but we hope Mo is having a great little stint away. We look forward to having him back next week. Couple quick housekeeping items. This will be our last live show of the week. Tomorrow we will have a best of show. You can still catch us from 2 to 4. It'll be highlights. Probably be one of our segments that we had Joe on during part of that. So make sure that you tune in. But again, a best of show tomorrow, and we will all take Good Friday off to kind of get recharged and ready for next week. So going to be fun with Joe and with Heather Williams. Our great NASCAR insider from WCYB out of Bristol. She will be with us for hour number 2. Joe, before we get any further, I do got to ask, it's the Wild and Wacky edition, but today is April 16th. You did pay your taxes, right?
Oh, yes, I did. I've already got my refund. How about you?
Oh, okay. No, I didn't end up to the good this year. I actually had to fork over a little cash, but it was taken care of. Oh man!
I've already spent my refund.
Now that's big time right there. I'd love to hear that, but just making sure you're in the clear. We didn't want the IRS come knocking on your door during the show and take you away from us. So that is good. And Joe, you and I will get into a lot today. We've got a jam-packed show. You're with us for the whole hour, and then Heather's with us for hour number 2. And this is going to be a lot of fun, at least I think, because we'll get to tap into that brain that Joe has. And we only get a sliver of it every week when we talk college basketball. But coming up in this first hour, we'll talk about the Memphis Grizzlies falling in play-in game action last night. We'll discuss the Atlanta Braves falling last night north of the border. They're actually playing right now. We'll give you an update on that. But then we will talk basketball. Joe, we invoked your name several times on this show because there was major news on the campus of Lipscomb University yesterday.
Yes.
So we will tap into that. A little bit of a tease. We will catch up with that segment toward the end of this first hour. And it wouldn't be a segment without Joe and I if there wasn't a tiny sliver of soccer talk. And it's kind of wild, and it's kind of wild and wacky. So stay tuned for right at the end of the first hour. Joe and I will get into that, and we will get you fixed up. But it's going to be a great show today. Appreciate everybody being here. And again, let's lock and load. With that being said, Joe, let's give the people what they want. Let's give them yesterday's results and today's schedule. Let's go to the Wednesday Rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Wednesday Rundown action underway, and we go to the baseball diamond last night. CPA picking up a 2-0 win versus Brentwood Academy. It was Independence 7, Centennial 2. Clarksville with an 8-3 victory over Rossview. Dixon County 11, Clarksville Northwest nothing. It was Columbia Academy 9, BGA 0. Cookville with a 10-0 win versus Smyrna. Davidson Academy 10 runs better, 14-4 over Ezel Harding. It was a 10-run victory also for Eagleville, who defeated Huntland 12-2. It was Montgomery Central 6, Fairview 2. Fayetteville with a 10-0 win versus the Tennessee Heat. Good ball game, it sounds like, between Summit and Franklin. Summit winning that one 4-3. Middle Tennessee Christian topping Franklin Road Academy 6-2. I was at this game. I broadcast this game last night, Joe. Giles County with a nice little pitching performance from their freshman standout, Drew McLemore, not the old NBA player, but it was a 4-1 win for Giles County over Franklin County last night. More baseball scores. Good Pasture with an 8-0 win versus Friendship Christian. It was Hendersonville 4, Beach 1. Hillsboro took care of John Overton 10-1. Springfield with a 5-4 win versus Kirkwood. Lawrence County defeats Marshall County 11-1. Lawson blanking Hume Fogg 10-0. Lebanon slipping by Stewart's Creek 5-3. It was Lewis County outlasting Mount Pleasant 8-5. Westmoreland, talk about a pitcher's duel, defeating Liberty Creek 1-0. Macon County with a 9-2 win versus Portland. Gallatin topping Mount Juliet 4-3. Tullahoma all over Murfreesboro Central Magnet. 15-0 was your final there. Final scores here on the baseball scoreboard from last night. DCA winning 13-6 over Nashville Christian. It was Oakland over Blackman 1-0. Page with a 1-run victory 7-6 over Brentwood. Grace Christian Franklin 6, Providence Christian 3. Nolensville 8, Ravenwood 7. Riverdale picking up an 8-1 win versus Rockvale. Shelbyville topping Columbia 7-2. Green Hill edging 10 runs, I should say, to the good versus Siegel 13-3 was your final there. Home stretch now as Spring Hill picks up a 4-2 win versus Warren County. Station Camp defeating Greenbrier last night 6-0. Summertown was a victor 4-0 versus Battle Creek. Sycamore topping Clarksville Northeast 5-4. White House Heritage defeating Trousdale County 7-2. Monterey picking up a 4-2 win versus Watertown. And your final baseball score from last night, it was a 9-0 victory as Wilson Central topped Laverne.
So fewer softball games, and here are the softball scores from yesterday. Blackman 18, Riverdale 3, Columbia beating Warren County 11-1, White House Heritage 11, Gallatin 6, Lawrence County 12, Murfreesboro Central Magnet 2. Tough day for that school. Richland 8, Loretto 7, and then they played a doubleheader. Loretto came back and won the second one 13-1. Rockvale 5, Siegel 4. Smyrna 15, Laverne 1, Stewart's Creek 8, and Wilson Central 2, and Summertown 18, and Battle Creek 1. In boys soccer, we have Columbia beating Leaking County 4-1, Cookville over Laverne 4-0. Hey, Murfreesboro Central Magnet gets a win here over Marshall County 3-0. University School of Nashville 6, Middle Tennessee Christian 0. And then they went home and did their homework, those kids. Oakland and Riverdale played a 1-1 tie. Rockvale 2, Blackman 0. Franklin 1 and Siegel 1. And Smyrna beat Stewart's Creek 5-2.
A lot of good soccer scores as well as softball last night. Let's continue on. Major League Baseball scores from yesterday. It was Moe's Braves falling to the Blue Jays 6-3. My Houston Astros, a little better. They did slip by St. Louis 2-0. NBA, we'll talk more about this game in a minute, but play-in action unkind to the Grizzlies. They fall in Golden State 121-116. The Nashville Sounds, speaking of baseball, they pick up a 6-3 win versus the Charlotte Knights. More on them as the show continues. Let's go to the schedule today. It is an abbreviated schedule as teams kind of ease into the Easter weekend here, but we do have some games to bring you up to speed on. At 4 p.m. tonight, it'll be Maplewood at Whites Creek. Page will travel to Brentwood at 4:30. Also at 4:30, CPA at Brentwood Academy. Mount Juliet Christian will be at Clarksville Academy. Davidson Academy will travel to Father Ryan, and capping your 4:30 start times, DCA is at Good Pasture. Let's go to 6 o'clock now, where Oakland will travel to Blackman. Hunters Lane is on the road at Ezel Harding. It'll be Wilson Central at Laverne. Rockvale traveling to Riverdale this evening. Cookville will be on the road at Smyrna. Lebanon visiting Stewart's Creek tonight to cap our 6 p.m. contest. A couple of 6:30 start times, White House Heritage at East Robertson and Ravenwood at Nolensville. 7 p.m. showdowns for Hendersonville at Beach. Mount Juliet will be at Gallatin, and we do not have a start time listed, but at some point this afternoon, look for Independence, who will be on the road at Centennial.
There's 4 softball games today. Westmoreland is at Gallatin at 5. Creekwood at East Hickman at 5:30. Cascade at Eagleville at 6. And Brentwood at Wilson Central at 6. In boys soccer, we got Cheatham County at Lawson at 7 p.m.
Let's go now. The final few games. Again, it's an abbreviated schedule today, folks, but men's lacrosse, it'll be Green Hill at Oakland. That game gets underway, or that match, I guess, gets underway at 7 p.m. Flag football, girls flag cranks up at 5:30 tonight as Hendersonville will meet Gallatin. Station camp will be at Liberty Creek at 6:30. Independence is supposed to meet Summit, but we don't have a start time listed. Same situation there, as Summit is also supposed to be in action versus Fairview tonight. MLB action, both of these games are underway, so look for an update a little bit later in the show. But the Braves are still finishing that series versus Toronto, and the Astros are doing the same versus the St. Louis Cardinals. Joe, we have reached finally the end of a very long and frustrating season for the Nashville Preds. But if they can get a win tonight, they will have earned it because the Dallas Stars will come to Bridgestone Arena. It'll be the final game for Nashville. Dallas, a team that maybe has aspirations of hoisting Lord Stanley. Puck drop is set for 7 p.m. You can see that game on FanDuel Sports South. And once again, the Sounds continue their series. They are on the road at Charlotte. Their game tonight gets underway at 5:35 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of your Wednesday schedule, and that concludes the Wednesday Rundown. Top story, as always, is brought to you by the fine folks Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Meal in Columbia. Be sure and check them out for your delicious daily deli lunch options where everything is cost plus 10 at the register. They're open from 11 to 6. Make sure you check them out. Once again, top story brought to you by our folks at Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Mill in Columbia. And, Joe, we teased it. We even gave the score during the rundown. But my beloved Memphis Grizzlies, they were in a precarious situation and forced into a play-in game spot. They did not come up with a win last night, falling despite a late comeback, despite even taking a late lead. They fall on the road last night, and now their playoff hopes hinge on a Friday game where they do face elimination.
And what's the matchup Friday?
Don't know just yet because it'll be the winner of tonight's game, which will be played the second game tonight. So they're either going to get the Kings or the Mavericks, depending on who wins that game. That will be a 9 o'clock start on ESPN. It will be at FedEx Forum on Friday. I guess that's the good news if you're a Grizzlies fan, is you play at home. Did you get to see any of the Grizz last night, Joe? That was a crazy game.
I did. I was following on Twitter, and I noticed that people were complaining about Zach Edey being victimized in the pick and roll by the Warriors quite a bit, and that really put them in a hole at some point. And that they, as you said, they recovered, but it's, when you get behind, it's not a good position to be in.
Yeah, it was an odd game. Memphis racing out to an 8-point lead early in the contest. You're thinking, okay, fantastic start. And then, boom, in the blink of an eye, Golden State, I forget the exact run that they went on, but at one point it was at least 20-2. They absolutely turned on the gas. Golden State led by 6 by the end of the first quarter after all that, 31-25. The Grizz kind of clawed back. They went on this up and down kind of flow over the course of the first half, but in the third quarter and the fourth, they really turned on the Jets and erased what was once a 20-point deficit, even took a late lead, Joe. They could not pull it off. There's a clip making the rounds on socials. They were victim to the infamous 5-second inbound call, which seemingly never gets called in the NBA, just because surely you can get it in at some point, right? But didn't see it. You'll get a kick out of this. The announce crew even made reference, to the Final Four where we saw an infamous 5-second call. So it was not Memphis's night. Jimmy Butler scoring 38 points. He was in playoff form already for Golden State. They advance clear to the playoffs where they will meet the 2-seed Houston Rockets. But as we discussed, the Grizzlies, kind of their own worst enemy throughout the course of maybe March and April for sure, losing a lot of games, falling into the playoff. And this is kind of why you don't want to end up in the play-in game situation, I would imagine, Joe, is now it all comes down truly to one game. They had the gift of being in the 7-8 matchup, kind of a double chance, if you will. But if they lose Friday for a season that has been full of promise at times, 48-34, they'll be on the outside looking in when playoffs action begins over the weekend.
They have been, in the last few seasons, pretty much annually disappointing. Wouldn't you agree with that? And it looks like they're heading possibly that way again. But a home game against they should be favored in. It should be winnable on Friday night against either opponent, I would say. They really should advance into the main bracket with a win Friday night at home. If they don't, again, it's going to be we can compare. Would that be more disappointing than the Predators not making the playoffs after spending all that money, or both very disappointing, I would say?
I would argue Memphis may be more disappointing just because at least they had ascended as high as the 2 seed. I think everybody after
Right.
about a month or two was clearly chasing OKC. But that 2 seed was obtainable, and they were there, whereas the Preds kind of never really got off the tracks. But this has been an interesting year for Memphis. They were decimated by injuries last year, so it was to your point, it was a disappointing season, no doubt. But just the year before that, they got bounced in the first round by the Lakers, and it was a disappointing exit. So kind of 2 different sets of disappointments there. And I'm really curious to see what happens. The real bad news, too, about this loss, Joe, if they had won this game, maybe you beat the Rockets, maybe you don't. Memphis had a pretty good series in the regular season with those guys, a lot of close games. But even if you win Friday, you're now fated to face the behemoth, a lot of folks say, in the West. You get the 8th spot, and you got to go to OKC for the first 2 games.
And I think there's a lot of people who feel Oklahoma City is the best team in the NBA. And it would be look, you just don't see 8-1 upsets in the NBA playoffs. It's very rare. You'd see it much more often in hockey. And so win or, if they win Friday night, they're probably heading for an early exit for a sweep or a 5-game against Oklahoma, 5-game loss against Oklahoma City. I mean, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. And again, who knows? Maybe they could have given Houston. I'm an eternal optimist. I'm a fan. So I thought maybe they could have given Houston a little bit of a series. But I
think
really
you're
don't.
Right. I think they have a much better chance against Houston.
For sure. And it may not be much of a chance, but they certainly have a much better chance than versus Oklahoma, I would say.
Yes.
So that is the bad news. The other bad news, and we don't have an update at least right now, but a crazy situation in the second half as Ja Morant lands very awkwardly on his ankle. He somehow got back in the game. I thought he was I was waiting for the headline to flash on the crawl, Joe, that he was out not just this season, but next season. I mean, it looked like a gruesome ankle injury right when Memphis had cut it to 2 late. But not only did he come back, he scored a couple of big buckets down the stretch. But I am curious, because of that injury, man, he will really have to try and rally in an elimination showdown Friday.
Well, they're going to need him.
I haven't seen an update. Maybe they have the goods to beat either one of those teams at home without Morant, but it certainly is not the same team without
No, I wouldn't
him.
like their chances without Ja. And things never go smoothly for Ja, do they? There's always a bumps in the road, injuries, or other events with him. It's wouldn't you love to go through a season just playing basketball? Wouldn't that be great?
We've interviewed a couple of different guests from Memphis over the course of the last couple of years, and they have essentially just said what you just referenced. At the beginning of the season, one of our guests even said, I don't necessarily have goals. I don't necessarily have dreams. I just would love to see Morant either stay healthy or stay on the court for as many games as possible, because whether it's off court or certainly he's had his fair share of actual injuries. This one looked gross, though, and it looked like, again, I was expecting to see that he was out for the rest of, first 3 months of next season, but he did rally, did get them back. They did take the lead, but props to Golden State. Again, Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy, was in full effect. 38 points. Steph Curry was slow to start. He only had 15 at the half, but he ends up with 37, including some free throws to really seal the deal there. But great game. Was a fun one. Stinks that Memphis lost from a Grizz fan's perspective, but it was a fantastic showdown in the play-in game. And again, that was the first of 2. In the other matchup prior to the Grizzlies game last night, didn't get to see any of this one really, but in the Eastern Conference, kind of a laugher by the end. The Magic defeat the Hawks 120-95. Trae Young voiced his displeasure, I guess is the best way to say it, Joe. He was asked to leave after he received a second technical with about 4 minutes left. So
sure seemed like he wanted to leave, or else why would you do something like that?
They were
already, the referee and
they were already kind of the writing was on the wall, and Trae Young just wanted to go ahead and get in the showers a little early.
I think that's right. I watched a little bit of that one, and I think Orlando looked great. The score reflects that. And I do know there are people that feel that Orlando could give the Celtics some problems, that the Celtics have trouble with very athletic teams, and that is certainly the case with Orlando. And so it might be a more interesting series than a normal 7-2 when Orlando plays the Celtics starting, I think, Sunday. So keep an eye on that one. Could be interesting.
I like that, and that comes from a good place there, Joe, with his Boston knowledge. But you're right. Orlando, at their best, is better than the 7 seed. That 7 seed may be reflective of so many games that they missed from Paolo when he suffered an injury. But that will be something to keep an eye on. And again, your 2 games tonight, it'll be the Bulls and the Heat in that 9-10 matchup over in the East. And over in the West, it will be the 9-10 matchup, the Kings and the Mavericks. That wraps up our opening segment here. As always, our top story is brought to you by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Mill in Columbia. Once again, be sure and stop by and check them out for your delicious daily deli lunch options. And everything is cost plus 10 at the cash register. Joe and I are going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we will dip our toes. You'll really see what we're about here. We're going to attempt to get through a Major League Baseball segment together here. But I will give you this day in Braves history. I'll do my best for a third straight day on that. And we will also talk about those 2 games that are in progress between Houston and Atlanta, both playing versus the Blue Jays and the Cardinals. So stick around. Opening segments in the books. Joe and I are back right after this. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Welcome back, folks. Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. This day in Braves history, and I did this kind of in honor of our first hour co-host, Mr. Joe Sullivan, so buckle up, folks. On this date, April 16th, 1928, the Boston Braves, see what I did there, Joe? The Boston Braves pitcher Charlie Robertson has his glove removed from the game by umpire Charlie Moran after the Brooklyn Robins complain that the ball is, quote, acting strangely. Boston still goes on to manage and win that game 3-2. Again, this day in Braves history, April 16th, 1928. And my immediate question, Joe, I know it was kind of a different era, certainly in a different game back then. But when they say the ball is acting strangely, I'm wondering, like, would that be just like a curveball now in today's game? Like, was that just such an odd concept back then? I'm curious, what was, quote, acting strangely in that sense?
I was waiting for you to ask if I was there.
No, come on, man.
But
that was 3 years before you were born.
Back then, they didn't replace the baseballs every pitch.
Huh.
So the idea that they could somehow do something with the baseball, and then the pitcher could manipulate the baseball with the scarring on it and make it move in different ways. So I would suspect that had something to do with it. Something in his glove, maybe a razor blade of some sort. The famous story for that is Elston Howard, the Hall of Fame catcher for the Yankees, and when Whitey Ford, the Hall of Fame pitcher, was pitching, that Elston would use the straps on his his shin pads, the buckle, and he would like rub the ball against his buckle and then throw it back to Whitey for the next pitch. And then Whitey would be able to manipulate the ball with that because the ball was marked up, and it would work some magic with that. So I would think the glove was concealing within the glove. He was concealing something that was scarring the baseball that made him move. What was the phrase?
Move strangely.
Strangely, yeah. So that would be my
acting
guess.
strangely. Yeah, I was
Days
picturing.
You couldn't do that because I think did they replace the ball after every pitch now? I'm not even sure. Is that?
I feel like they replace it maybe not every pitch, but certainly if there's a foul ball, certainly if there's any sort of contact, then every other pitch, or at the request of virtually anybody.
So every ball that's thrown and batted in the major leagues is a shiny new one. That was not the case in 1928.
Let's see. That's a great Google, by the way. And according to The Athletic, this is a quick Google here. According to The Athletic, between 96 and 120 baseballs are used over the course of a 9-inning game. One specific game, The Athletic counted 114 baseball used from the time the pitcher began his warm-ups until the final out. That equates, simple math on the fly would tell us, that's almost 300,000 baseballs. It's a lot of balls, man. And then
it sure is.
And I love what you're saying too. Yeah, they got the razor blade or some sort of setup there where they're kind of scarred. I'm also just visualizing you return one to the ump and it looks like a dog almost like chews it up, and he's like, something's up here. So that one was for you, Joe, in the sense that it was the Boston connection there, and you delivered, man, for a guy. We're wondering about your baseball here.
Was that game in Boston? We don't know.
Trying to read that here.
Yeah, all right. So but I would just say this: Braves Field in Boston, which they played at, and not far from Fenway Park, the same, not far away at all. But the field itself was bought by Boston University, and their athletic field, which would for them, they used to play football there when they had football, but now it's men's and women's soccer, men's and women's lacrosse played there. But what was then the right field grandstand at Braves Field was the main seating area for Boston University sports. And there was also a building that contained a ticket office for Braves Field that they have left as a historical marker of the stadium. So it's still, part of it still stands, and the seats that the fans sit in was once the right field bleachers in Braves Field.
Interesting, man. I knew you would have some knowledge for us, and you've delivered in spades. And if you're wondering, yes, we did this day in Braves history, but if you're wondering also why Joe and I are continuing to go on about days of yesteryear, because we don't really have good news at the moment. We told you guys that both the Braves and the Astros are in action as we speak, and both scores are bad, I'm sad to report. The Braves fell last night to Toronto, and even though Spencer Strider made his return to the lineup, or return to the mound for Atlanta, Toronto has racked up a 3-0 lead. That game is currently in the bottom of the 7th. So Strider, his official line, he lasted 5 innings, gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, did strike out 5, but it is not looking good for the Braves. Meanwhile, it is not looking good for the Astros as well. They were bested by the Cardinals. Old NL Central heated rivalry back in my youth there, Joe. Don't like losing the Cardinals. They lost on the first game of the series, but picked up a 2-0 win last night. But unless they rally, they trail 4-1. That game is entering already the top of the 9th. So some day action and not looking good for the home teams right now.
So now I've heard this show when Mo Patton has moaned about the Braves when they're in first place. I mean, if he was here today, they're 6 games out, and they're losing again. Holy cow, would he be moaning? So it's just I will mow in honor of Mo. I say, man, these Braves stink. I'm really unhappy. A general moan.
Okay, well, I'll allow a general moan. I don't want you to get too specific. And I sense the rationale. I'm kind of the blind optimistic type guy, and I've tried to paint this picture. Monday, Atlanta defeated Toronto, and then on Monday, defeated them early. And I mentioned to David Wilson, I said, hey, Atlanta is 1-0 versus teams from Canada. And he got a big chuckle out of that. And I was like, hey, you got to look for the little victories because it has not been the greatest start for them. They were hoping to get Strider back, and obviously you assume a Cy Young caliber pitcher is probably going to be enough to get you the win, but it has not panned out just yet.
Well,
they're 5-12 at the moment.
Baseball, cliche, a long season, of course, the longest season. But looking up at the Mets and Phillies, it's hard to imagine them passing the Mets and Phillies. The Mets and Phillies just seem to be far enough ahead already and better teams, I would think. Yeah,
and that's what I've made that comment a couple different times. You're not just having to catch the Mets or the Phillies. You're having to catch them both. No disrespect to Miami, no disrespect to Washington. But you got to catch both of those teams to even think about the division. But we're also seeing some good play in the West as San Diego and San Francisco actually are at top ahead of the Dodgers in that division. So the spots and the chances for Atlanta to, really get this turned around are quietly, fading. We'll revisit the panic button maybe at the end of April and kind of see where we are. So bit of a Braves update. Joe bringing the knowledge from way back in the day. I actually found the box score. I'm sick like that, Joe. The 3-2 box. This is kind of the one thing I do love about baseball is that you can put everything online so easy.
Yes. Baseball Reference is a great site.
Yeah, that's what I'm on right now, checking it out, checking out the stats from 1928. I don't know that I'll do that on a regular basis, but for today at least.
Wouldn't you like to go back in the time machine and sit through a game from 1928 and just see how it was played? And one thing we know for sure, it would go quickly. Time of game was probably, an hour and 15 minutes, or well, I'm joking, but it's those games played much more quickly.
All right, well, you asked that. The box score says there was 5,000 people in attendance. They did play that game at Ebbets Field that day, but the game duration, I love this. The game duration was an hour and 50 minutes. So if you can get in and out under 2 hours, I'm in on that.
Well, very few TV commercials. Heck, the fielders used to leave their mitts in the field when they came in. They didn't even bother bringing them into the dugout in those days.
I do love the kind of lore and Americana of that era, no doubt. So that will conclude our baseball chatter. And Joe and I got through it. Hopefully Mo doesn't get too upset with me for this day in Braves history. But I did my best in your honor, brother, for the last 3 days. Looking forward to having him back. But before we go, on the other side of this timeout, we will get into Joe's wheelhouse. He's kind of sharpening his knives over there. He's getting his hands ready. We will talk college basketball. We will have big news from the campus of Lipscomb University. We will have news from Vanderbilt. There's been an interesting hire. What if I told you that a college basketball program has hired a Heisman Trophy winner? You might scratch your head when you hear that, but it's true. We'll tell you about that. We'll also get into some other topics. And we got a wild and wacky send-off coming up for Joe here at the end of the first hour. But before we get into this next break, we will not have a live show tomorrow, as I mentioned. So we do want to hand out a couple of pieces of hardware that we normally do on Thursday. And I believe producer Mark has those available to us. And so if he does... All right, let's let that thing run then, if we could, Mark. On Thursdays, we like to recognize our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week because besides the military, there is no greater team building experience than sports, and Custom Stone Handlers invites you to get in the game. With that being said, our Team of the Week is Battle Creek Baseball. The Grizzlies went 4-0 from the dates April 7th through the 13th. They beat Mount Pleasant twice. They also knocked off Santa Fe, and they went down to Linville, my neck of the woods, and rallied late in that game to defeat Richland 10-9. So a fantastic effort for a brand new program, their first season of athletic competition for that new school, and that's why the Battle Creek Grizzlies are our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Also, other hardware.
Look at that first base. Look at that first baseman in that picture. How he's down and ready to play in that defensive stance there.
I mean, they look good. And, Battle Creek, anytime you have a first-year school, you don't necessarily know what to expect. Some of these schools really take a year or two to kind of find their footing, and they take some lumps. But Battle Creek has been impressive, certainly in baseball, but in a few other sports as well. Yeah, that's a good posture right there. They know what they're doing down there, Joe.
Congratulations to them.
Absolutely. That also takes us to our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance Columbia Athlete of the Week. And our Athlete of the Week is none other than Summit Junior and Missouri commit Audrey Cathy. Audrey, all she did, ladies and gentlemen, she went 600, batting 600 in 9 games. She had a home run, 2 doubles, and this is the wildest part to me, Joe. She had 5 triples. Wow. She had 15 hits in 9 games, but 5 of them were triples. She drove in 9 runs and scored 16. That helped the Spartan women to a 7-2 mark on the week. So props to Audrey on a fantastic week, a fantastic performance at the plate as the Summit Spartan standout, a junior that is committed to Missouri, is our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week.
Congratulations to her. And I wonder, look, triples are, fairly rare in baseball on a larger field. Hearing that many triples in the softball game, it's got it. Wow. It's really unusual, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you have to hit it almost, in a perfect spot, or just hope it catches the corner or something, or you just got to have wheels. Maybe she's got both, right? Getting it done. So props to our, again, Custom Stone Handlers Team of the Week, the Battle Creek Baseball Grizzlies, and our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance Summit Junior, Audrey Cathy, our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week. Got the housekeeping out of the way. Let's kick it to a break. When we come back, Joe and I will talk baseball. We already talked baseball. We will talk basketball. Big news on the campus of Lipscomb, and Joe has got the deets. We'll break down what's ahead for the Bisons. We'll talk a little bit more as hour number 1 continues. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Hour number one, Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, rolling right along. Wade Neely sitting in the saddle. Joe Sullivan, our colleague at Main Street Media, former sports editor at the Boston Globe. And, hey, Joe, before we go any further, I was told to relay a message to you. Your common friend, our common friend now after yesterday, Brendan Quinn from The Athletic was on with us, and he just simply wanted to say, go Hawks, as he we had a golf segment all mapped out, and it turned all hell broke loose. And next thing you know, we're talking Jameer Nelson and Delonte West, and I'm like, what are we doing here?
Well, Brendan Quinn is a friend who is a terrific writer for The Athletic, writing about golf at this time of year, but also college basketball and other things during the year. He's a wonderful feature writer. And he does fabulous work. And we have the same alma mater. We both went to St. Joe's of Philadelphia, where his dad was the track coach, by the way. His dad is a legend there. And so I guess that's probably he went for free. But no, Brendan's great. And yes, we both would get probably too hung up on talking about Jameer Nelson, who was the best player to ever play at St. Joseph's, and he was the National Player of the Year in 2004. There's actually a new book out about that team. They call it The Soaring Season by Aaron Bracey. If anyone might be interested, it's on Amazon. If you wanted to buy Aaron's book, it's very good about a team that for some of us will never be forgotten. And now we've spent too much time talking about that, haven't we?
Well, perhaps, but it makes sense because we did bring you on to talk college basketball, and it was great catching up with Brendan. He delivered a fantastic segment with us in terms of what he saw at Augusta, which was just captivating theater.
Yes,
whether you're a golf fan or not. But yeah, he snuck in and he said he's got that Sports Illustrated with Jameer somewhere in his office. And so we said, hey, don't spend time tracking that down. We believe you, big dog, because he was showing the love. It was fun yesterday catching up with him. So he wanted to pass along his well wishes.
Right back at you, Brendan.
Absolutely. Speaking of college hoops, we touched on it, but only a little bit yesterday. Blaine Keller was sitting in the saddle as the co-host, and the news breaks, and we kind of went through the basics. But Kevin Carroll, formerly at Trevecca, no longer at Trevecca because he has gone across town. Joe, what can you tell us about Lipscomb and the Bisons, their new head coach, just a couple of days after Lenny Acuff took off for Samford?
So when we talked last week about possible replacements for Lenny Acuff, Kevin was one of the ones we mentioned as a leading candidate. So this is not surprising, kind of an obvious choice in many ways. So Kevin played for Lenny at Berry College and then coached with him, including at Lipscomb for Lenny's first 4 seasons at Lipscomb. And then the last 2 seasons, he was the head coach at Trevecca, where when he went there, they had won 2 games the season before, 2. And so he went 16-13 in his first year and then 19-10 this year. So he is resurrected Trevecca from really being one of the worst teams in that league to being decent. And so he's proven himself there. He's been a head coach before. I think it was at Maryville in St. Louis, Maryville. So he's had head coaching experience. He's had assistant coaching experience. He's experienced at Lipscomb. And interestingly to me was the commitment Lipscomb has to their sort of core philosophy, a Christian university. And Philip Hutchinson, the athletic director, when he announced it in his statement he made, he got right to it that was one of the most important things to him, that Kevin understood the mission of the school and connecting with the type of athletes that will be attracted to Lipscomb. And so I think that was almost as important as the winning that he did at Trevecca and his experience with Lenny. That's important at Lipscomb. So he is, I do know this, that the key player that's out there is Dylan Faulkner. Their 6'9", I'll call him a center, who he missed 20 games this year because of injuries and illness, but he's a terrific player, potentially a terrific player. And I know that Kevin has already spoken to him, trying to get him to stay. So if we don't see him go into the portal closes April 20th. It would be the first good recruit for Kevin Carroll would be to get Dylan Faulkner to stay. Interestingly, Grant Asman was a 6'10 forward. He's a substitute under Lenny. Was leaving Lipscomb to go to Trevecca. He's now going to stay. And if you check the verbalcommits.com hourly like I do, it just moved a little while ago within the last few hours. Charlie Williams, another key player for them. They want him to stay. He entered the portal. So Charlie Williams is in the portal. I talked to Logan Zuber, who is the sort of point guard in waiting for them next year. And he said to me, I'm a Lipscomb guy. The new coach wants me. I'm staying. So looks like I think Logan would stay too. He'd be another key returnee for them. In addition to Kellum Boylan, the 6'7" transfer from Air Force, who had a sort of up and down season, but has a chance to be a really good player for them. And then that's not enough, of course. Kevin Carroll's going to have to get busy in the portal pretty quickly to fill out that roster.
You touched on something a moment ago, Joe, that I think kind of I didn't necessarily think about it in the moment, but it definitely resonates. They do put an emphasis, whether it's we'll just call it the Lipscomb way or, their core methodology. Right. That does seemingly factor a little more than at other institutions. And so in a way, that kind of, I don't want to say gives you a leg up, but it certainly kind of puts you on the radar a little bit, maybe on the short list. And the fact that Kevin Carroll can also coach basketball is not a bonus per se, but it's certainly that nice combination of, hey, he understands the school, he understands our message, and he can also win some games. So in many regards, to me on paper, this seems like a really good fit.
It does. And what's similar to, and it's not identical, that's not what I'm saying, but at Brigham Young, they're not going to hire a coach there that's not a person who attends the Church of Latter-day Saints. That's a requirement at Brigham Young. Now, I asked Philip this when he was still looking to hire someone. Lipscomb's affiliated with the Church of Christ. Would it have to be a member of the Church of Christ to be a coach there? And he said, no, that's not the case. But it has to be someone committed to the mission of Lipscomb. And I don't know what Kevin Carroll's religious practices are, but obviously he clears the bar, and now he gets to coach some basketball, which, Lipscomb is a good job. I mean, they just won the league. They are that school has the potential to be a contender in the Atlantic Sun every year. They have good facilities, not great, good, and it's in, we're biased. It's an attractive place in Nashville for its location.
No doubt. The only, I guess, if you're looking to play devil's advocate, the only thing that does give me a little pause is we are talking about Lipscomb that did just go to the tournament, has been trending upward. And even though Kevin Carroll's had success kind of seemingly everywhere he's been, the sample size is just a little small, it felt like. Yeah. If I was going to do any sort of nitpicking, it does feel like, hey, the 2 seasons we saw were great, but again, they were just 2 seasons. But that seemingly was not that big of a deterrent, apparently, to Hutchinson and the staff.
It's an obvious selection. It's not a creative or inventive one. It's not like, oh my goodness. I always think of like the home run surprise selection of a coach was when Danny Ainge picked Brad Stevens to coach the Celtics. Totally unexpected and worked out sensationally well. Now, Brad didn't win a championship as a coach, but he certainly just won a championship as the general manager, to use the general term for what a man compiling a roster. So it's that sounds kind of silly. I'm not saying Lipscomb should hire Brad Stevens. I'm saying that there are, if you stop and think about it, there might be some out of the box selection that might have worked very well. Doesn't mean Kevin's not going to do well, but it's obvious he fits, and it's what the school and Philip Hutchinson want. Absolutely.
And again, you can read Joe's article, mainstreetnashville.com. Some good stuff there from Joe, of course, but then also some good quotes from Philip Hutchinson, again, the athletic director.
And Joey Dwyer, who's the young reporter that works for not only for Main Street Nashville, but also for 247 Sports covering Vanderbilt. Has a very good story about how Kevin Carroll fits the culture of Lipscomb. He has a very good story up on Main Street Nashville right now.
Couple of good sources there to get your fix if you're looking for more on Lipscomb's new basketball coach. Not the only team active, though, Joe. What in the heck is going on at Vanderbilt? They are just plucking kids left and right out of the portal, it seems. They have
Mike
added
James
another one, right?
Yeah, Mike James is the latest. I'm not that familiar with him. I don't know. And then they got a couple of big guys. One from North Carolina, which I certainly think he would be a crucial player, and the other one from Jacksonville State. I'm not so sure of that big guy, how well he'll do there. I see him as more of a substitute. But obviously, they need to add players with the people. Again, I'm baffled by people leaving after they had such a fun, exciting season there. But so much of this has to do with money, and we see how the state of college sports. Boy, I'm devolving quickly here. It is the leading example being the situation in Tennessee with their quarterback, of course.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Heather about this in the second hour, especially her being based kind of over in East Tennessee. But let's quickly deviate and give me your initial reaction when you hear this is something that Mo and we saw the smoke kind of billowing out of Knoxville, but we didn't know if there was a fire. And then when we wake up Saturday, there wasn't just a fire; it was a full-on fire. As Nico is no longer there and seemingly getting turned down left and right for potential new suitors.
So I don't want to wish bad things for any person, but a comeuppance and a rude awakening would be good to see in terms of how demanding and greedy some people can be. That's all I'll say. I hope he finds a place. Well, he is in the portal with a do not contact situation, so it seems like when they do that, player does that, they know where they're going. I think UCLA is the obvious choice, a team that needs a quarterback, and he's from California. So UCLA would be a choice. But I think the general consensus is he's certainly not going to get the money he was trying to demand from Tennessee, basically doubling his NIL deal that he got. And look, this Nico's been at the forefront of NIL, or it's not really NIL anymore. It's basically paying players at the forefront because Tennessee gave him money up front, and the Attorney General of Tennessee sued the NCAA to protect him, and now he becomes the first one to sort of hold out for more money, and it didn't work out for him. But he's been a landmark recruit in this new era of college sports. His performance on the field, can we talk about that? Was good but not great. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's fair.
No, he certainly, he's good but not great. So I don't know if you're good or not great. These demands are tough to make if you're not great for that amount of money. And it's we'll see what happens. But it's look, greed is the source of so much of this, and that starts with college presidents, not just Nico and his family. The college presidents allowing this situation to evolve into what it is. They're looking for it's the greed of the television money that they're trying to reap, and so it starts there, and obviously it runs all the way through.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating case study. I think you and I've kind of said to an extent what you mentioned a moment ago. He was kind of such a unique NIL situation when he just got to Knoxville. Now we have this other key moment. Seemingly, it feels like in 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 or 6 years. I'm not saying a legal precedent, but he will certainly be a figure that I think a lot of folks immediately look to as an example of whatever shift is about to occur. It feels like some sort of shift is going to happen. Who knows what that really is? I don't, but it feels like he will be kind of the fork in the road, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's going to be interesting. So I'm glad you got to share some insight and some wisdom there. Speaking of football, Joe, what if I told you that a Heisman Trophy winner has been hired as a college basketball coach? Would you believe that?
I would, because I'm aware of what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, if you didn't know, it would sound a little odd, right?
It would, except for this. He made his choice many years ago, leaving football behind for basketball. And any sane person, if they have the choice between playing football or basketball, is going to pick basketball. And for concussions alone, to protect yourself from concussions. Charlie Ward was a Heisman Trophy winner at Florida State, but he played in the NBA with the Knicks. And I imagine basketball is his favorite sport, even though he was a tremendous football player. but now he's going to have, wow. So he's had great success as a high school coach in Florida. And now he gets this job at Florida A&M, which these jobs are at that level are all tough, all very difficult to win. The HBCUs they're in the SWAC now. Florida A&M. They used to be in the MEAC. They're in the SWAC. These schools sometimes, like Jackson State this year, played their first 13 games on the road, just taking money to help their athletic department. That is no one's going to succeed playing that type of schedule, and that's what Charlie Ward's going to be faced with. Let's see what he does. He's had success at the high school level. It's going to be very interesting. I'd say it's great publicity for Florida A&M. It's going to put them on people's radar because I think people want to track to see how Charlie Ward's going to do as a coach there.
Absolutely. And, I was kind of unaware of his talents as a high school coach, but the headlines certainly will grab you. He was a heck of a football player, obviously a Heisman Trophy winner. He had a great career. Remember some of those great Knicks teams that he was on. But Charlie Ward now, Heisman Trophy winner and college basketball coach. It does sound a little bit odd. Joe, I want to thank you for joining us in the first hour and kind of as a tribute to you and a nod to Wild and Wacky Wednesday, which will take place at the end with Heather in our second hour. But I found a story that I felt compelled to share with you. And Saturday morning, I was out mowing my grass, just putting this picture in perspective. And I get a text on my headphones from Joe. And it said, how about your Everton boys? Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but it said, how about your Everton boys? They deserve that. And I had not watched a single second of the Everton match. We joke about, Joe's soccer fandom on this show a lot. But lo and behold, Everton had won a big win, actually, on the road. So I got Joe sending me text updates about my own soccer team. That was the situation on Saturday. But, Joe.
Well, I was watching, and they dominated play the whole time, but it was scoreless. And then they finally got one at the end in stoppage time, in added time. And I said, I was charged up. I said, they got that. They deserve that. Good for Wade's boys.
I loved it. I even tagged on Bluesky. I said the universe is about to crumble because I'm getting texts from Joe updating me on my soccer team. I'm out here not even paying attention. But that was a massive win for them. But Joe, I'll bring that up to say they're getting a new stadium, and they're kind of strutting around. They're getting a new stadium, and they will open at Bramley Moore Dock, which is the name of the new digs. But how about this? Before the stadium even opens, a story has come out that a 62-year-old man has received a, quote, indefinite ban from attending all Everton matches at the new stadium because apparently they had like a very soft event. I don't know if it was a friendly soccer match. I don't know if it was just a meet and greet with the team or what. But apparently this guy was stealing food. They caught him on surveillance, not paying for food during the test run. So before the team can even move into its new stadium, the 62-year-old guy is banned for life, basically, at the new digs. That's tough.
Was it worth it? I hope it was a good meal. It's doesn't that seem a little bit much? Maybe like one season for that? Do you need it's a lifetime suspension? Did you say?
Yeah. Well, it says, quote, indefinite ban.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying there shouldn't be punishment, but that seems like you do your time and then you can come back.
That's tough. So we talk about some of the Wild and Wacky sporting event fans, on the show a lot, and I thought this one from across the pond was fitting. But the brand new stadium,
like he was scattering ashes already in the stadium or something.
No, it was. I mean, he was just stealing food. I found this here. It was an 18 and under, kind of a test match.
Yeah.
There was 10,000 fans roughly in attendance. It says in the video, the man filming was brought to his food by a member of the catering staff. I even love this. They even have his order. He asked for, quote, black coffee with sugar. And then they have him on camera saying, quote, adios, amigo, and then just walks away with his coffee and whatever food he had. So, yeah, I don't know if it's worth it. If you got a new stadium, you at least got to pay for your concessions. They can't be that much.
Also, cameras are everywhere in places like that. I mean, he should be a little smarter about it. Nobody's getting away with anything these days. Criminals, got to be smarter.
Yeah, that's tough. So that was a little bit of a tease. We will have more Wild and Wacky news at the end of the second hour, as I said. But Joe Sullivan, Main Street Media colleague, he's our college basketball insider as well, all things local. You can follow him on Twitter at Globe Sullivan. Joe, thank you for sitting in the saddle for this first hour today. We sincerely appreciate that, and we wish you and your family all the best for Easter weekend.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. Great fun.
Absolutely. We'll catch you soon. That was Joe. Still to come, hour number 2 is on the books here. It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We normally talk to Heather Williams about all things NASCAR, and we will. But also in the second hour, Heather will sit down with us, and we will talk a whole lot more. We'll get into some college football. We'll get into the NFL. We might even talk about her Kansas City Royals, and we'll also see what's on the docket for Wild and Wacky Wednesday. The weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Sit tight, folks. Hour number 2 comes your way right after this. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2. We are off and running here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Joe Sullivan was with us from the first in the first hour for Main Street Media. Second hour, we had to bring in the big guns here. She always joins us. She always brings electricity on the NASCAR circuit. And I said, what if surely we couldn't get Heather to join us for a whole hour? And she said, heck yeah, I'd love to. And Heather, whether you were just blowing smoke or not, thank you for joining us here. We look forward to a good combo over the next 60 minutes.
No, I absolutely love to. And you just lucked out because I'm actually off today, a couple days off for covering the NASCAR race over the weekend and being super busy. So I have anything else to do anyway. Might as well come on here and have some fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. And we will get into a lot with Heather in this second hour. We will close the show, as we always do on Wednesday, with Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. I even picked out a story. I found a story, I should say, that might hit a little close to home for Heather. So stay tuned for that. I want to get Heather's thoughts on the latest. We're asking all our guests this week, but we do got to talk a little Nico later in this hour. We'll even talk Chiefs and Royals with Heather. But before we get
I'm
into
sure
all
everybody's super excited about the Chiefs and Royals talk too. They're probably sick of it enough just in our NASCAR segment.
Okay, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. How about that? We'll cross that bridge when we get there. And who knows? We might have more fun than we think here in this next hour. But Heather Williams from WCYB out of Bristol, and let's just dive right into it. Give us the deets. Kyle Larson, our other co-host this week, David Wilson, watched most of that race, and he used the phrase, Kyle Larson just flat out whooped him. Is that what we saw for a guy that was pretty dominant out there on the track this weekend?
Yeah, he took him out behind the shed and took care of business. I mean, he finished second in the truck race with a truck that he said was not very good. Then he dominated the Xfinity Series race and dominated the Cup Series race. I was out there all weekend, and it was like, for the older people out there listening and watching, remember the Brady Bunch? Remember the episode where Jan goes, Marsha, Marsha, Marsha? I mean, this was Kyle. I mean, there was Denny Hamlin in the Cup race was really the only guy that could even keep pace with him. And Kyle said Denny kept him honest, but Kyle being out front and controlling the track position, there really wasn't anything Denny could do with him even when he got to him. So pretty dominant day, not the greatest Bristol race, and we can certainly talk about that more. But as far as Kyle goes, I mean, that's kind of what Kyle does at Bristol. He's always been really, really good at Bristol. He hasn't always had the best finishes, but now that he's found a way to finish races, the rest of the field is really in trouble.
I'm seeing a couple of headlines over the course of the last few days. They called it a, quote, flawless race for Kyle Larson. And I don't know that you ever could run a truly flawless race. He didn't lead every lap, but he led most of them, 411, 412, something like that? How close was this to almost perfection?
Yeah. I mean, he didn't start on the pole or even on the front row or even close to the front row. I think it was like 11th or something, like he did in the fall, which is why he led so many more laps. So it took him 30 laps or something to get to the front. And then there were some exchanges during pit stops and stuff where he didn't lead, but he pretty much led. Once he got up front, he pretty much led every lap out there. It was as close to, I think the fall was a little bit closer to a flawless race, but it was pretty darn close, especially considering his start position. He and Cliff Daniels is having this place figured out. And it's skewing a little bit the opinion of the racing at the track. Now, the racing was not good, and like I said, we can certainly dive into that after we finish talking about Kyle. But his domination of the race is not helping things when it comes to the interpretation of what the race and what the racing was like, because there was plenty of passing and things going on behind Kyle, just nobody could get around Kyle.
He was on another level. And for a guy that didn't get to watch any of the race, the fact that I kept seeing so much, like we're watching domination. And I said, I mentioned David Wilson, who's one of our colleagues, said Kyle whooped him this week. And is that a deal, Heather, where you mentioned the truck maybe not being the best, or, there's some guys when they arrive at the weekend after the first event, that whatever it is that they're participating, you just say, oh, he's got that crazy look in his eye. He means business this weekend. Does that kind of exist, or did we just see him kind of get better as the weekend went on in your mind?
Well, I think the difference for Kyle in the truck race as opposed to the other two is he was in a little bit more equal equipment, if you will, in the truck race, because he wasn't driving a Hendrick truck. There is no such thing. They have an alliance with Spire Motorsports, and their drivers drive Spire trucks. Now, Spire is top tier in the truck series, but the gap between Spire and Front Row, who won the truck race in Chandler Smith and Thor Motorsports, is much, much closer than it is Hendrick and most of the other teams in Xfinity and Hendrick and everybody except for maybe Gibbs and Penske and Cup. So he had such an equipment advantage, especially in the Xfinity series, on everybody else, that coupled that with just how good Kyle is at Bristol, And that really makes all the difference in the world.
It was an impressive performance. You mentioned, let's talk about the rest of the race. What else maybe stood out in your mind on a day where Kyle was so dominant? Who else either had a great performance or maybe didn't have a great performance?
Well, I think the story of the weekend outside of Kyle wasn't really any other driver. I mean, there were drivers that had, Ross Chastain had a really good performance that he needed kind of 3 weeks in a row now. The same thing with Ty Gibbs, a couple weeks in a row. He's had a strong performance going into the break for the Cup Series. But the headline outside of Kyle was really the race, the racing, the tires, and the car.
Mm-hmm.
Bristol is one of those tracks that no matter what's going on, no matter what the car is, what the racing, what the competition is, everybody believes this is their favorite track. Everybody says if you're going to go to a first race, pick Bristol, except for this Bristol. I mean, the racing was just not that great. And the weekend started with promise. If you fast forward back to a year ago and the race in the spring, it was cool, and we had the crazy tire wear. Made for a lot of passes for the lead, lots of action, guys trying to manage their tires. It was crazy. It was, for Wild and Wacky Wednesdays, wild.
Mm-hmm.
But this year in practice, it was really cool on Saturday, and it looked like this race was going in that direction. But what a difference 15 degrees makes. Warm up 15 degrees, and all of a sudden they're Superman. They can run 120 laps on a set of tires, which is crazy because they could barely run 30 in practice the day before. So there's a lot of questions now about what to do with Bristol. There's rumors swirling around that there could be a track not owned by NASCAR that's going to get a reconfiguration, and there's some speculation that might be Bristol. There's also a lot of talk about NASCAR looking at things like tires and what they can do to make the wear on Saturday, because of the temperatures, be the same on Sunday. Mm-hmm. They're also talking about looking at the aero package, at the horsepower on the cars to improve not just the racing at Bristol, but all short tracks, because Martinsville wasn't that great either, if we're being completely honest. So that's the real headline, because we put up with some bad racing on the short tracks for a long time, but Bristol has always seemed to find a way to kind of bail it out. Great finishes, great things with the tires. There's always been a little something at Bristol that's kind of saved it, fights, whatever. And this was just 500 laps of riding around the circle and playing follow the leader to Kyle Larson. And then that seems to be the straw that's kind of broke the camel's back with a lot of people and made them say, all right, we got to do something. We got to change, because if you mess with Bristol, that seems to be a bridge too far for a lot of NASCAR fans.
That was the exact phrase I was going to use. You can do a lot, but not my hashtag not my Bristol, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So if there is something like that potentially in the midst, how soon does that get addressed or changed? Is this something that, are we talking weeks, months, or will it be like during the off season?
I think if they were going to do something to the track, it would have to be in the off season because of the baseball game this summer. Like, they're not going to be able to do anything with the track because they're going to have their hands full transforming this into a baseball stadium. So I don't expect anything with the track proper. If the rumors come to be, if that actually is true, I don't see that happening until the off season. But they can do things to address the tires, to address the car before we come back. And NASCAR doesn't have any tire tests planned for Bristol this year. They didn't really have any kind of open testing planned for Bristol. So I really don't expect anything to happen before the night race. I expect that to be something that they might address in the off season.
And you mentioned that night race. That's in September. Is that right? Earlier September.
Yeah.
So potentially got some time to tinker, but you made a great point there. I mean, you got that kind of odd baseball game smacked right in the middle there too, kind of throwing a monkey wrench in the middle of things. It sounds like, right?
Well, it would just make it really hard for any kind of construction to go on.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. That dang baseball, getting in the way of our NASCAR.
Oh no, I'll never say that. I mean, I'm so excited for this baseball game. I got a chance to talk to Johnny Bench over the weekend. He was at the Grand Marshal along with Bob Kessling at the race, and I got a chance, because I worked at the Fox station here, to talk one-on-one with him. And I mean, if that's what I have to look forward to, talking to legends like that, I mean, can it get any better? He was great, and his excitement for the Reds and his excitement for this game, and he loves NASCAR. He's friends with Jeff Gordon and Richard Petty and Richard Childress, and his association with NASCAR goes way back. He's like the perfect ambassador for this game because he loves baseball and he loves racing.
So kind of while we're walking down that road, what other promotional either events or, kind of walk us through the calendar and the rollout for this thing. And that's in August, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It's August 2nd.
Yeah.
And they're going to have events. I think they're working on trying to have some events throughout the state. I think they're working on, I don't know if anything's confirmed yet, but I think they're working on doing something in Nashville to promote the game. The game's not sold out, by the way. If people want to come, it's not sold out. And they haven't sold initially offer. They did not put the whole track on sale because there are some seats that are really far away. But if they sell out, they will open up more sections. So I don't think at 140,000 that this game's going to sell out. So if you want to go, definitely go ahead and get those tickets. So they're working on some stuff in Nashville and I think Knoxville, maybe Chattanooga, the markets that have baseball in them outside of Bristol. They're working on promotions with the Braves and with the Reds. So there'll be some stuff coming up with that too. It's so exciting, right? Like, because I was here and I worked and I was at the Battle of Bristol and what that meant to college baseball. And what's cool about this, college football, and what's cool about this event was the Battle of Bristol was the two closest college football teams, Power 4 teams, obviously, because there are other college football teams that are closer, but the two Power 4 teams, about 2 hours in either direction. The perfect two teams you could get, right? Tennessee, Virginia Tech. Same with baseball, right? These are the two biggest fan bases in our area. I would say it's probably 60-40 Braves fans to Reds fans in this area. You know that this is area for both teams because both teams are blacked out on MajorLeagueBaseball.com. So there's a lot of fans, right? Because you can't watch the games unless you're watching on TV. So I think it's going to be really, and the drawings and just the atmosphere, I just think it's going to be one of the coolest things to experience in person.
For a regular season baseball game, there's about as much intrigue. MLB does, such a great job when they visit, whether it's the stadium down at Rickwood down in Birmingham or, they go to the Field of Dreams. I mean, they put on these productions well, and I'm hoping that they, and it sounds like they will do the same amount of production behind the scenes.
What's great about it is, for baseball, is that they never do the same thing twice, right? I mean, maybe a couple of games, but you know what I'm saying. They keep mixing it up. Oh, let's play at Field of Dreams. Let's play at Rickwood. Let's play on an Army base. Let's play overseas. Let's play at Bristol Motor Speedway. And by doing that, and this is one of the things I talked about with Johnny Bench, is that you're constantly drawing in new fans, right? Because you're reaching an audience that might not otherwise look at baseball. At a time where baseball honestly needs it. I mean, attendance is down a lot of places. They need to find new fans. And by thinking outside the box and doing this, hopefully for a baseball lover like me, who definitely just cringes every time I see an empty baseball stadium on the major league level, hopefully this will, drum up some excitement and create new fans and bring new people to the sport.
I think so. And, we've talked a lot about the we'll stand by this, obviously. The Braves obviously haven't been the greatest thus far, but hopefully they can get that turned around. Hopefully we can get the juice going in that direction because, that is going to be a fun event and looking forward to kind of tapping into that a little bit more. Before we wrap up kind of the rest of our NASCAR talk, what are you going to do with yourself this weekend? They're only off week basically for the rest of the season, right? 28 races, 28 weeks.
Yeah, this is the only off week for the Cup Series. The Xfinity Series and the trucks are racing this weekend. I will definitely be checking out those races because it's the return of racing to Rockingham. There was a short little stint, I think around 2014 or 15, 12, 11, somewhere in there, where the trucks ran there for one weekend. But this is really the big return. Three racing series, ARCA trucks and Xfinity are going to be racing at Rockingham Speedway. Just a great historic old track. So definitely be keeping my eye on that. But honestly, catching up on sleep. It's been a crazy start to the season. And because of the way that the races have fallen, I've gone to more races and done more stuff with NASCAR than probably I have in previous years. I've already been to 4 races and we're only in April. I usually only do 8 a year maybe. But it's just worked out where I've been able to go to a lot of races. I've loved it. I have, but it'll be nice to not be rushing off to somewhere on a Sunday morning for sure.
No doubt. I can only imagine. Walk us through when did your race week, quote unquote, start last week? And then what time did you feel like you were officially done with everything, whether that was Sunday or even beyond Monday, I guess even?
Well, I would say my race week actually started 2 weeks ago on Saturday when I went to Martinsville to start getting content for our race show. So I did Saturday and Sunday the week before at Martinsville. Then I did probably 2 straight weeks of Zooms, and I went to Charlotte a couple of times to talk to people for did a half-hour race show called It's Bristol Baby. And so just getting content for that. And then all race week, I was putting together that show. On Friday, we did all of our shows out live from the track for the truck race, the same on Saturday for the Xfinity race, and the same on Sunday for the Cup race. And then my race week ended at about 10:30 on Sunday.
Do you wear a fitness tracker? Was my next question.
No, I probably should, because
I would love to see the data from that week.
I used to have one, and it just got old, and it stopped charging, and I stopped wearing it. I should probably get a new one, because my steps on race weekend, I think my watch freaked out and thought I was, I don't know, on a bike or something, because it was just like the numbers just go way up. And then, Bristol's pretty banked too. So running around that place, the leg workout is not necessary that week. You wake up and you're pretty sore. But I mean, I would do it every weekend if I could, because I think I posted this on my Instagram. Any day at the racetrack is a good day.
No doubt. And it was all Kyle Larson this weekend. And again, he cruises in the final race before do we call it the bye week? Is that the correct terminology? What's the official NASCAR lingo?
Off week for NASCAR. Now, I will say this. It was all Kyle Larson except for in the truck race. Chandler Smith won. And for those that don't know, his truck is owned by Bob Jenkins, who is a business owner from Morristown, Tennessee. So
local flavor.
To the winner of the truck race, the owner, and Bob was in victory lane, just living it up, looking so happy. He considers Bristol his home track, and anytime he can win in Bristol, because he owns trucks and he owns Cup cars, anytime he can win or do things at Bristol, that's huge for him because it's home.
That makes me think. Another final question. We've kind of been on a run where we've had some cool trophies. What does the winner at Bristol get? What's their signature item? A sword?
Yes, an actual sword. They get a trophy, but then they also get a sword because it's the last great Coliseum. And I think it was 2 years ago in the night race, Denny Hamlin actually sliced his hand because it's an actual sword. He was bleeding in victory lane.
I was unaware of that, both the sword angle, and I was certainly unaware of a bleeding or a stabbing there. So
yeah, well, he took it out. He was kind of playing with it, and all of a sudden he just sliced his finger, and no stitches required, but it's sharp. It's an actual sword.
Okay, well, I did not know that, and I feel like that's an adequate. A grandfather clock is cool, but when you can get a sword, that's even better. I feel like, right?
My favorite 4 trophies in NASCAR are the grandfather clock, the sword, the guitar at Nashville, and then Miles the Monster at Dover, because it's a concrete track, and the trophy is a big monster made out of concrete, and it has his hand up. Yeah. And they put the winner's car, the die cast of the winner car, in the hand, and then there's actual like, I don't know, 20-foot Miles the Monster that sits at the track, where they put an actual race car of the winner from the year before in his hand. So that one's pretty cool. Those are probably my personal favorites.
I was unaware of this monster, and this is kind of cool, but also kind of freaky at the same time. There's one picture at night; its eyes are glowing. I don't know how to necessarily feel about that.
Because they call Dover the Monster Mile. So Miles the Monster is their mascot. I think it's so cool because it's so personalized, right? With the cast in the hand. I think it's really cool.
The branding is on point, both there and certainly at Bristol. And it was a heck of a race week. And normally, Heather, we would say, we'll see you next week and goodbye. We certainly hope to speak to you next week to get right back in the swing of things. Mo will be back as well. But let's stick around a little bit. I got some questions I want to ask you. I want to tap in to some more knowledge of your East Tennessee prowess. So Heather Williams for WCYB out of Johnson City will join us here in just a matter of moments. Will stay with us in just a matter of moments. I'm struggling to get to the break here. Let's get to the break. Producer Mark, take it away. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2, Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, rolling right along. That is Heather Williams. Wade Neely sitting in the saddle. Mo returns on Monday. This will be our final live show of the week. We will have a best of tomorrow, and then Friday we will be off in observance of Good Friday. So, Heather, we appreciate you coming back for more, and we've talked about it. We've asked everybody that's been on pretty much for their thoughts. We'd be remiss if we didn't with you as well. Amidst all the Bristol chaos last week, when did you kind of first catch wind about the saga brewing in Knoxville, and kind of give us your reaction to Nico Gate, I guess, if you will, as the Tennessee quarterback is no longer in Knoxville and currently does not have a home?
I guess Friday. Well, actually, I guess it was late Thursday, early Friday, I guess is when the stuff started hitting. And then Friday, he didn't show up to practice, and then of course everything that happened on Saturday. I know that our other sports guy was kind of more on top of it than I was, because I was in full NASCAR mode. I don't even know where to start with this, right? I mean, obviously I get it's a bad look for NIL, and I'm a huge proponent of NIL. I think that as much money as these schools are making off of these athletes, that the athletes deserve to get paid. They deserve money off of it. But I also think it's a classic lesson that I think, without sounding like an old woman and being like, get off my lawn, that this generation kind of needs to learn, which is you can ask for whatever you want money-wise. That doesn't mean that someone has to give it to you. And you're only worth as much as what somebody is willing to pay. And he's learning that the hard way, right? I mean, he had a pretty good deal at Tennessee, making way more money than I'll ever make in my lifetime. And on a team that has a chance to compete for a college football playoff, right? They were in the playoffs last year. You would only assume that they would get better because they have every year under Coach Heupel. And he was in a pretty good position. He got greedy. And great, you asked for it. They said no. And now what? Nobody's going to pay. Nobody, especially this point, everybody's got their quarterback. Nobody's going to, I shouldn't say everybody. Most of the high-level teams have their quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And none of these mid-level teams are likely going to be able to afford what he's asking for. So even if he lands somewhere, he's probably not going to be making any more than what he was at Tennessee. And then what have you accomplished? You've stepped down in level of school that you're at, and you're making the same amount of money. It just, he got really bad advice, or he wasn't listening to good advice. In either instance, it was a poor decision by a young kid. And I hope that other athletes will see what happened and learn from that and understand, yes, you have to know your worth, but also you have to know when maybe your idea of what your worth is a little skewed, or even if you, that's not even correct. It's just not right for the market, right? Because I think I'm worth $40 million. There's no way that I would ever make that as a sports anchor in Bristol, right? The market's not there. So you can know your worth, but you also have to understand the market and what the market can pay. And he didn't understand that. And here he is now looking for a job.
Yeah, and you literally just took the words right out of my mouth, and I hadn't really kind of made this point this week, but and I'm not some econ wizard by any means, but everybody had kind of talked about NIL and paying for play essentially, and I'm like you, I'm a huge proponent of that. But we're seeing kind of the, quote, bad side of the market. I mean, the market is what the market is. And if somebody was willing to pay him that much, I feel like it would have happened by now. And he's kind of just unfortunately ran into a spot. Yes, there's an element of kind of, quote, burning bridges, maybe, or, not wanting to get burned to school perhaps. But the sad part is the market is what the market is. And economics can be a tough business. And it feels like he is learning a hard lesson right now. Or he and his camp.
He'll find somewhere to play, I would think, because he's an incredibly talented quarterback. But he's not going to be making the $4 million or $5 million or whatever ridiculous number he was asking for. He's probably going to be making the 1.5, 2 he was making at Tennessee. I think those are the numbers. You can correct me if I'm way off on this, but or maybe even less, because like I said, the high-profile schools already have their guys. I mean, you have to have them locked up at this point. And so I just don't see, Georgia or Texas or Ohio State opening their arms to him for that kind of money this late in the game.
Let's talk football-wise for a second there. Is there an argument to be made that, I mean, I am not going to root against people very often, but could you not see him, maybe this is a odd, weird blessing in disguise for him. Maybe he ends up at a school that he was, quote, too good for before. It feels like we've seen some of these guys go to smaller schools. And as Ben McKee of Go Balls 24/7 earlier this week said, ball out. I'll be fascinated to see if he could kind of maybe take the ego hit a little bit and accept his new circumstances. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's
I don't know. The way that this is played out, I'm not sure if his ego will allow him to really go let loose in a school like that. When you take there are two kids, call them kids or not kids. There are two young men in camp right now at ETSU, both former Power 5 Power 4 now quarterbacks. And both of them are there because, they kind of did the same thing. They jumped all over the place looking for the next paycheck or the next big thing or this or whatever. And but they did this several times, and their options have run out. Now they're at a high level FCS school, just trying to show that they can play, like one last chance to show that they can play. And I'm not sure. I've always believed that you want to be the third stop for a guy like this, not the second, because they usually screw up the second stop as well. And then the third stop, their ego they've had to do a lot of introspection, and they're generally like, by the time they get to the third spot, like, oh, this could be it. People are going to stop taking a chance on me. So I hope for Nico's sake that, yes, he lands somewhere where he can play and play well and win and maybe even shock some people. But I generally, history tells us to know that second stop, their egos are still pretty strong.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. This is such a multi-layered story just with Nico alone. Not even, I mean, you throw in the fact Tennessee, there were so many great social media posts this weekend. A story is kind of, makes you go, scratch your chin a little bit, when seemingly Alabama fans and Florida fans even were saying, oh, yeah, good for Tennessee. They were kind of coming to the side of the Vols on this. It feels like the court of public opinion has been massively in Tennessee's favor in this case.
Well, I don't know that there was anything else that Tennessee could have done, right? You cannot. The market is not there. You cannot break down and give him that money when he's not that guy, right? I mean, he's a very, very good football player, very, very good quarterback, but he's not that guy. This is not the next coming of Patrick Mahomes or Caleb Williams or, Joe Burrow. He's not that guy. He's a good college quarterback. He might be an NFL quarterback. I haven't seen anything that suggests that he would be or would be the next Tom Brady in waiting. So you just have to – Tennessee could not set the precedent to pay him. And so everybody is going good for Tennessee, but I don't see that they had any other choice or any direction to go other than to do what they did. And I think it was very painful for them to do, because it's not like they have, an amazing quarterback just waiting in the wings to take over this position either. I mean, they've got some talented kids, some young kids that are talented, but it's not like they have – the number one quarterback in the country sitting behind him waiting to go.
Yeah, Tennessee comes out as odd as this situation has been, about as well as they could have. You kind of restore a little public faith, and you also make a decision that, if they had zero quarterbacks, and obviously they got a stud coming in, next year in their recruiting class, maybe you revisit that situation if you don't necessarily have that kind of luxury waiting on you. But for now, at least, Tennessee seems like they're in good shape. Hey, while we're talking football, you did mention the NFL draft. 1 week from tomorrow night, the first round will kick off. Everybody on the planet seems to think that Cam Ward is bound for Nashville. Did you see the clip of Cam Ward playing Fortnite yet, by chance,
I have not seen that, no.
I should have included this in our rundown, but there's a clip that made the rounds last night or 2 nights ago, and he's live streaming Fortnite, and somebody had asked, who are your favorite running backs in the NFL? And he thinks, but not very long, and he says that would be Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. So you say, well, they're both on the Titans. Then they asked about the receivers, and I don't know that many people would have Calvin Ridley as their number 1 ranked receiver in the NFL, but he quickly said Ridley and then Jamar Chase. So it seems like the deal is done.
Lobbying. He's clearly lobbying to end up in Tennessee. Here's the thing. And I kind of felt like this when the Chiefs had the number 1 overall pick after an abysmal season. But there are a handful of organizations, and I consider the Titans one of them, that don't have these kind of abysmal seasons very often. And as a number 1 overall pick to land in a place like Nashville, I mean, you really couldn't ask for very many organizations like that in that position. It's an organization that's going to get things fixed, that is generally pretty competitive, and a great city. So I'd be lobbying too if I was one of those people being considered for that, because I I think they're going to get things turned around pretty quickly, and you could end up a lot worse places. I mean, you could end up in New York, either New York's or Chicago, or one of those places that can't seem to get out of their own way when it comes to football. But Nashville's not one of them, and so I'd be pretty excited too, and doing all the lobbying I could.
Yeah, he certainly is making his case. And again, it feels like it's a done deal, but it won't be official until next Thursday. Speaking of next Thursday in the first round, your beloved Kansas City Chiefs, they don't pick per usual till the very end of the draft. They are 31 this year. Who would you maybe either like to see your Chiefs pick, or who do the Chiefs maybe in your mind need to, or position that they need to grab?
I don't really look at names just because they draft so late. It's really hard to say, oh, I really would like X, because chances are if I know their name, they're probably gone by 31, 32, where the Chiefs are normally picking. Their biggest area of need, in my opinion, is offensive line. I mean, if you watch the Super Bowl, you could tell that they need offensive linemen. Now, they have done some things in the offseason to address that in free agency, but they need a young, talented, not that expensive offensive line, to be around Patrick Mahomes, because if he's the franchise, and if he doesn't have time to get stuff done, and by the time they got to the Super Bowl, that line was a mess. Kind of like 4 years ago when they played against Tampa in the Super Bowl, the same thing. By the time they kind of patchworked it together all year, but got up against a defense that was, made them look silly. So I would really like to see them address offensive line. I think that they need to address tight end, because, Travis Kelce is back next year, but I'd be stunned if that wasn't it for him. He is very close to being the all-time leader in several categories. He's broke a few of them last year when it comes to playoff receiving stats. So I think if he can get those next year, he'll probably be done regardless of what the Chiefs do. So I think that they've got Noah Gray, who's been really good in spurts, but not super consistent at tight end. So I'd like maybe to get some competition in for Noah at tight end. And then, of course, defense, they run through defensive players just constantly because they want them young and not that expensive. So I expect that they will draft defensive backs, because they always do. They'll probably look, if there's a pass rusher available, they'll probably go for one of those. And then they're very good in their starting linebackers, but they're a little thin depth-wise, so I would say linebacker too would also be a position of need for the Chiefs.
For what it's worth, The Athletic has them selecting a guard/tackle out of Ohio State. So you're onto something there with your offensive line.
I mean, if anyone watched the Super Bowl, they know we need offensive linemen.
It was pretty evident. You are right. Are the Chiefs still so far ahead that you're not even concerned with any of the other teams? Because it feels like the AFC West is making some sneaky moves. Are you getting a little concerned, or are you still kind of, hey, we're the best until somebody even really gets close to knocking us off in that division?
Well, I mean, I think as long as you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, you always have a level of confidence. But the division is getting much better. There were 3 playoff teams last year from the AFC West, right? The Broncos and the Chargers both made the playoffs. So there's no doubt that the gap is closing. And, well, I have no concern about the Raiders, because the Raiders are one of those teams that I mentioned can't seem to get out of their own way.
You're not buying the sneaky Raiders love just yet, huh?
Every year people say the Raiders are going to do something, and every year the Raiders just Raider. So, I mean, the Chiefs have won more playoff games at the Raiders field than the Raiders have, for what that's worth, because they won a Super Bowl there. But the Broncos and the Chargers, the Broncos specifically, are the team that probably concern me the most in the division, because they seem to have found their quarterback. Their offense is getting better, and they've always had a scary good defense. And they also have a pretty good coach now. So the ingredients that were missing, that were holding them back, they seem to have. Now they still don't have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. But the other pieces are good enough, and their quarterback is good enough that they could definitely cause some problems for the Chiefs, for sure.
I'm with you. I think the Broncos could be fun. Chargers kind of, they
You know,
in
the
some
Chargers.
ways. In some ways, they overachieved last year, but in some ways, obviously, especially in that playoff performance, they underachieved, right?
Well, the Chargers still Charger. I mean, I said the Raiders
Yeah.
Raider because they're a mess. The Chargers are always just that team that everybody says, "Oh, they're going to be amazing. They're going to knock off the Chiefs, or they're going to make the postseason or whatever." And they'll have a good regular season, and then they are what Chiefs were pre-Patrick Mahomes. They were always a good team. They were always competing for the postseason, but they could not do anything more than win a game or two, or just make the playoffs. They could never get over that hump. And I think that it's going to take them probably finding either a special quarterback or a special coach or both for them to get over that hump, because that seems to be what it is for most teams, right? I mean, when you look at the Eagles, the Ravens, the Bills, I mean, what makes them special is they have a quarterback coach combination that is better than most others.
That combo alone can carry you a long way. And of course, you mentioned you got two of the absolute best to ever do it in Reed and Mahomes. So I'm with you. I am going to keep my eyes on the West. I don't think that they're really, really nipping at the Chiefs' heels, but I think that division will be a little sneaky competitive between spots 2 and 4 this coming season. So
go ahead.
You finish up here.
I was just going to say 3 teams made the playoffs last year, so obviously it's on the upswing.
Absolutely. No, I was going to say quickly, but just because of the last couple of days, but give us an update. Where do you sit emotionally 18 games into your Kansas City Royals season thus far?
Nah. I feel like they've underachieved. They were so good in spring training, and I realize it's spring training. The bats have not been there to start the season. I think, when you look at Salvi, doesn't have a home run yet, I don't think, this year. Bobby Witt's numbers are down. Pasquantino is coming off an injury, but his numbers have not been amazing. But I'm not checked out, because the starting pitching has been really, really good. Mm-hmm. And starting pitching is very hard to find. And so as long as the pitching is there, I feel like the bats can come around. The bats, they get, in baseball, it's streaky, right? It's a numbers game. So I think they're still in a really good spot right now. We'll see 2 or 3 weeks from now if I feel the same way. But as long as the pitching is there, there's always a chance for the bats to heat up and for them to be fine.
And in that division, only 2 games back. Nobody's really kind of pulled any sort of runaway just yet. So kind of like my Astros, they're kind of just in an odd division. Everybody's kind of okay, but nobody's really great. At least, again, is 10% through the season, or
the biggest disappointment for me was how good spring training was and how well the Royals finished last year. Winning a series or winning the wild card and getting to the divisional series. You felt like there was a lot of momentum, and it carried over to spring training, and is not carried over to this regular season, which is a little disappointing. But it's early, so I'm not checked out completely yet.
I'm with you, and that's where I land with Houston too. I'm just cautiously. I'm not watching full blown games. I'm just kind of popping in for an inning or two. Maybe watch more if it's going well, and I kind of just keep tabs on everything. We're not on Mo's level where he's living and dying on every box score. I said, hey, big man, you got to slow down a little bit. There's 162 of these things.
Well, I did drop money on the full season of the Major League Baseball package, so I could watch every game when I'm home, which I haven't done since 15. But usually I'll just wait till the summer and see how I feel about it and get the discounted price. But I did do that, so we'll see.
Well, hey, you make a great point, and I did the same. But to a point you made back in our NASCAR segment, is it not the most aggravating thing that you have all the teams blacked out? Not necessarily because I want to watch a Braves game, not because I want to watch a Reds game, or Cardinals games are even blocked out here. If any of the teams that I want to perhaps watch play them, they're also blacked out. So, man, you kind of get shafted a little bit living where we live in terms of those local blackout rules.
Well, what annoyed me when I lived in western Kansas, and I was about 4.5 hours from Kauffman Stadium, it was blacked out. It's like, I'm not going to the game. And I'm sure it's the same for you with the Reds or the Braves or the Cardinals. You're not driving 4 hours to the game. blacking it out is silly. I somewhat understand, although if I'm paying for it, who cares? Is kind of my opinion. But I somewhat understand, maybe within an hour radius of the ballpark or the market, blacking out because there's a chance you might go to the games. But I'm not driving there. I'm not doing it. And so, and I think that we talked about needing to grow the sport. I think this is where baseball is missing the mark, because these days, most people are watching their entertainment on this. And if you can't watch a baseball game on this, you're losing fans. They're going to watch football or NASCAR or F1 or whatever they can get on this. And so I think baseball is going to have to make some decisions and make some changes sooner rather than later, at the risk of losing fans.
Yeah, I'm with you too. And I don't know what sort of deal MLS has with Apple TV, but the fact that I live in Nashville and the games are not blacked out on Apple TV, that's what baseball desperately needs. I wish it was across all sports, but certainly with MLB. But being a Houston fan, it kind of works in my favor in a weird way. So I look forward to that. Heather mentioned Kansas a second ago. When we come back, we will get into Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest, wildest, wackiest news, some from Florida, but there is a story out of Kansas that you're going to want to stick around for, folks. We will have it on the other side. Final segment coming up alongside Heather Williams, Wade Neely here. You're watching Main Street Sports Today. It's our final break. We're presented, as always, by TOA of Columbia. Hey, let's go Stros.
People are amazed at the variety and quality of guests we bring into Main Street Sports Today. But when you've been in this business for nearly 40 years and you never throw away a phone number, it's pretty easy. Right, Wade?
Absolutely. And Wynn agrees with me. Check out some of our guests featured on Main Street Sports Today.
Step back and catch my breath. But I expect nothing less from you, big boy. Let's get going.
We make it work pretty good. So
the fans are tremendous.
It's fantastic.
It was really amazing.
Yeah.
From preps to pros, you never know who's going to stop by, so be sure to listen to and watch Main Street Sports Today from 2 to 4 p.m. daily on the MSM TV app.
Final segment on Wild and Wacky Wednesday. It's Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is Heather Williams. Wade Neely sitting in the saddle here. It is our final live show of the week. We will do a best of tomorrow to get a little bit of a head start as we celebrate Good Friday on, Friday. But then also Monday, we will be back with you guys for the Monday Mirror episode. Mo will be back with us as well, so looking forward to it. Heather, you're always on Wednesday. Well, not always, but more often than not, you're on Wednesdays. And so it's only fitting that we get into Wild and Wacky Wednesday with you here. And this story is, a few weeks old. This happened in late March, but maybe a little close to home to you. The headline reads, authorities say a babysitter checked under the bed for monsters and found a human.
Mm-mm.
So,
where in Kansas is this?
This is in Barton County, which is outside the city of Great Bend. Yep.
Yeah, it's around where I used to live. I covered Great Bend High School and Barton Community College.
Well, did you ever find any mysterious sounds or? So The story goes that an unnamed babysitter told authorities she was getting the kids that she was babysitting ready for bed, and one complained about a, quote, monster under the bed. Her efforts, however, to reassure them, not great. Apparently she goes to check out. I'm envisioning this. Oh, there's nothing to be afraid of here. And as she looks under the bed, she finds a 27-year-old man who, quote, once lived at the residence, but had also been given an order not to return to the property. So a kid is complaining, saying there's something under the bed. You're doing the classic, oh, there's nothing. And boom, you find somebody who's hiding under the bed. That is borderline the most terrifying thing you could ever imagine, I would think.
Yeah, I'd be out. And also, that man would be beat with a baseball bat is generally what I keep on hand to fight off the monsters, I guess. I don't. That's enough to make me not sleep tonight.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. I really want to know the backstory of that. Like, was he ex-boyfriend? Was he? Because he used to live there, but he was told not to come. It kind of sounds like domestic crazy. But good on that kid for listening to his instincts, right? He was convinced there was something underneath the bed, and gosh, that's frightening.
Yeah, not good. And there was a, quote, short foot pursuit. The suspect taken into custody, facing charges of aggravated kidnapping, aggravated burglary, so on and so forth. So not looking good. So if you hear something around the house, even if it's your young ones complaining, at least if you're in Great Bend, you might ought to check things out. So
that's what and the thing is that's like a really part of the state is like a small close. I'm sure everybody knew him, and I'm sure the babysitter probably knew who that was. So the other thing is that I don't know what he thought he was going to get away with, because I'm sure when she jumped, looked under there, she's probably like, Jimmy, what are you doing? This is the type of area where everybody knows everybody. That's wild.
That was what I was going to ask, is how big of a town are we talking about here? And you answered my question. I know that guy. Jimmy's hiding under the bed.
It was one of the two biggest high schools that I covered, but I think even that being said, I think Great Bend High School has like 450 students, something like that. It's not a huge city.
So be sure and look out, whether you're in Great Bend, Kansas or not, under your bed before you go to sleep tonight. So that was maybe a little terrifying. How about we end on a little happier note? The animal that's taken over the internet, everybody, if you hadn't seen them by now, hopefully producer Mark will pop one up. But the capybara is the hottest animal on the internet, and everybody is obsessed with these adorable giant rodents that they've, again, taken over social media. They're fantastic creatures. But apparently, Heather, if you go to St. Augustine, Florida, you can now visit the Capybara Cafe, which opened apparently late. You're out? You're out on the capybaras?
No rodents. No. Their cousin is a mouse or a rat. No, absolutely not. Mm-mm.
Oh, man. Here I was thinking, man, I've got one for Heather. She's going to love this. She's going to book a trip to St. Augustine. Look at him beside that stump right there.
Too? No, absolutely not. There's no way you're getting me within 3 miles of that mess.
Okay. Well, I was planning a trip for me, you, and Mo down to St. Augustine for this cafe. But
I'll go to the beach with you, but I'm not going to that cafe. People think that thing is cute.
That, to be fair, that's not the most glamorous picture from the Associated Press there, but yeah,
people think that thing is cute. Look at his feet. That thing is terrifying.
They are famous because they are, quote, very chill, and so as a result, a lot of the other animals love to mess with them too. But okay, I'll remember that for your next appearance. But those were two of our wildest and wacky stories, and good to know that we will not see Heather at a capybara zoo anytime soon.
No rodents.
But Heather, thank you so much for filling in a full hour in the books. We sincerely appreciate it, and have a happy Easter weekend, okay?
Same to you guys. Went by fast. This was fun.
This was a lot of fun. Thanks to Heather Williams. Thanks to Joe Sullivan. Thanks to producer Mark Rogers. Wade Neely saying so long. We'll come back Monday. Mo is back. It'll be the Monday Mirror. Enjoy your week, folks, and we'll see you next time on Main Street Sports Today.